All right, let's dive into one of the most incredible stories ever told. We're talking about a legendary feast thrown right in the face of impending doom. It's a wild story about just how far arrogance can take you and the terrifying, supernatural consequences that can follow.
You know, what's really chilling is that long before this party even got started, this prophecy from Isaiah kind of set the stage. It basically predicted that a night designed for pure celebration in Babylon would flip and turn into a night of absolute terror. Talk about some serious foreshadowing.
So let's set the scene. It's about 539 BC. We're in Babylon, the jewel of the ancient world. I mean, this place was famous for its massive walls, a city everyone thought was completely impenetrable. But right outside those walls, a very powerful enemy is camped out, just waiting.
And this is where the real tension is, right? Outside, you've got the huge Medo-Persian army, led by none other than Cyrus the Great. And they have the city completely surrounded. But inside? Well, King Belshazzar, who's running the show, he's not worried at all. He's thinking, hey, with these walls and all our food, we're untouchable.
And when I say untouchable, that's putting it mildly. To show just how little he cared about the army at his doorstep, Belshazzar decides to throw a gigantic, over-the-top feast. He invites 1,000 of his lords to come party with him, basically turning the palace into a massive spectacle of defiance while his entire kingdom is on the brink.
But you have to understand, this wasn't just some party. Oh no, this was a calculated insult. As the book of Daniel tells it in chapter 5, Belshazzar is about to take his defiance to a whole new level. We're talking outright blasphemy, a direct slap in the face to the God of the people his empire had conquered.
And he does it in 3 very deliberate steps. First, feeling good from the wine, he gives a command. Go get the sacred gold and silver cups my predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar, stole from the temple in Jerusalem. Second, the desecration. He, his lords, his wives, his concubines, they all start drinking wine out of these holy vessels. And third, the ultimate insult. They use these sacred cups to praise their own idols.
This verse right here, this is the absolute peak of their arrogance. Think about it. They're using objects that were set apart for the worship of God to toast idols made of metal, wood, and stone. So you see, this is the moment it crosses a line, from just being proud to being intentionally provocative.
Well, as you can probably guess, a provocation that bold does not go unnoticed. The loud, defiant party is about to be interrupted in the most terrifying way you can imagine. An uninvited guest is about to make its presence known.
Right then, at the very moment they're making these blasphemous toasts, a hush falls over the entire banquet hall. The music, the laughter, it all just stops. Every single eye in the room is drawn to the same exact spot.
And what they see is just impossible. Out of thin air, the fingers of a human hand appear, and they start to write a strange message on the wall, right there in the light of the lampstand where everyone can see it. The king, his guests, they are all frozen, just watching this disembodied hand calmly spell out their doom.
So how does the king react? Well, the guy who felt so invincible just moments earlier, he's completely shattered by fear. The Bible describes it in this incredibly visceral way. His face goes pale, all his strength just vanishes, and his knees are knocking together so hard he can barely even stand up. His own body has completely turned on him.
He frantically calls in all his wisest advisors.
And this is where you see the real bind he's in. On one hand, you have all his official advisors, the magicians, the astrologers, and they are totally useless, completely stumped. But then on the other hand, the queen pipes up. She remembers this guy, a sort of forgotten sage named Daniel, who is known to have, as she put it, the spirit of the holy gods and just incredible wisdom.
So with all his experts coming up empty, the terrified king is desperate. He's totally out of options. His only and last hope is this Daniel guy. So the call goes out. Get Daniel in here. The entire kingdom's fate is now hanging on this one man's ability to decode the message from the wall.
All right, so Daniel is brought in, and what he does next is, well, it's incredibly bold. Before he even glances at the writing, he makes it clear he's not there to just translate. Oh no, he's there to deliver a verdict.
The king, of course, tries to buy him off. He offers Daniel riches, power, the whole deal if he can just read the writing. But Daniel? He just shuts it down immediately. He's like, keep your gifts for yourself. Right away, he shows he's not in this for personal gain. He's there to speak truth to power.
So Daniel just lays it all out, point by point. It's like a courtroom prosecution. First, he brings up the king's predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar, and reminds him how that mighty king was humbled for his pride. Then, and this is the real kicker, he accuses Belshazzar of knowing that whole story and choosing to ignore its lesson. The main charge? Lifting himself up against the Lord of Heaven. And the evidence? That stunt with the holy vessels at his drinking party. Daniel basically says, look, this writing on the wall, it's not a mystery. It's the bill coming due for your arrogance.
So, after that mic drop of a speech, Daniel finally turns his attention to the mysterious words on the wall.
The words on the wall are Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. Now, for the Babylonians in the room, these words would have sounded kind of familiar. They're related to Aramaic words for money and weights, like counting coins, a mina, a shekel. But Daniel's about to reveal that their real meaning is something way, way darker.
See, what Daniel explains is that this isn't some clever riddle. It's a divine audit. Think of it like a final supernatural performance review of the king's entire reign. Everything he's ever done, all his pride. It's all being counted up, weighed out, and judged right then and there.
And here's the verdict decoded. Mene, which is repeated to really drive the point home, means numbered. God has numbered the days of your kingdom and time's up. It's over. Then there's Tekel, which means weighed. You, King Belshazzar, have been put on the cosmic scales of justice and you came up short. You've been found wanting. And finally, Perez, which means divided. Your kingdom is about to be shattered and handed over to your enemies, the Medes and Persians, who, by the way, were literally outside the city gates as this was all happening.
I mean, wow. The message is just crystal clear. It's direct, it's brutal, and it's final. There's no appeal process here. The verdict is in, and it comes from the highest court imaginable.
And out of all of this, that one line is the one that's really stuck with us through the centuries. You have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. That is the ultimate statement of failure, right? It means that when it really mattered, when everything was on the line, the king's character just didn't measure up.
And here's the final, deeply ironic twist. Belshazzar actually keeps his word. He dresses Daniel in royal robes, puts a gold chain around his neck, and makes him the third most powerful ruler in the kingdom. A kingdom that had, a few hours left to live. It's a completely hollow gesture, because that very same night, the prophecy came true.
We're going to step outside the biblical account and see what the historical records say.
And what's remarkable is this. You have two completely independent sources from totally different cultures, Daniel the prophet and Herodotus the Greek historian, and they both describe the exact same scene. Babylon fell in the middle of a massive citywide festival. And it gets even better. Another Greek historian, Xenophon, adds this crucial piece of intel. The Persian general, Cyrus, didn't just stumble upon this party. Oh no, he knew about it in advance. He timed his entire invasion for that specific night, knowing the city would be drunk, distracted, and totally unprepared.
Historical records really fill in the gaps here. The Babylonians' own official records, the Babylonian Chronicle, admit that Cyrus's army took the city without a battle. Other sources confirm that a high-ranking governor defected and helped the Persians, and they also tell us how they did it. Cyrus's engineers diverted the entire Euphrates River, which flowed right under the city walls, allowing his army to just walk right into the city on the dry riverbed. Absolutely brilliant.
And here is the man of the hour, Cyrus the Great. While Belshazzar was drinking out of stolen cups, Cyrus was executing a masterful military plan that would end one empire and launch his own into history. But there's one more amazing layer to this whole story. For the biblical writers, this single night wasn't just a random historical event. For them, it was the fulfillment of a very specific prophecy that was decades old.
You see, decades before this party ever happened, the prophet Jeremiah had predicted that the Babylonian dynasty, started by the great Nebuchadnezzar, would only last for 3 generations. Him, his son, and his grandson. After that, its time would be up. And when you lay it out on a timeline, it's just incredible. You've got Nebuchadnezzar, then his son, then his son's son or grandson in the royal line, Belshazzar. The night he's killed, that 3-generation clock runs out exactly as predicted all those years ago.
And right in the middle of this epic transition is Daniel.
Just think about his incredible life for a second. He was there for the peak of Babylon's power under Nebuchadnezzar. He was the one who delivered its death sentence to its last king, Belshazzar. And then he just continued his work, serving in the new government under the very kings who had just conquered the city. He literally watched one world empire fall and another one rise to take its place.
That one moment, a mysterious hand, a terrified king, and a cryptic message, it literally sealed the fate of an entire empire that very night. But the real question is, why has this story stuck with us? Why does it still echo thousands of years later?
I mean, besides the obvious supernatural drama, what is it about this story that makes it so timeless? What's the human truth hiding in there that keeps it from just being some ancient fairy tale?
Well, for one, it's the ultimate cautionary tale about pride, right? It's this perfect picture of what happens when human power thinks it's bigger than divine authority. And of course, this is where we get one of our most famous sayings. When someone says the writing is on the wall, they're saying that disaster isn't just coming, it's already been decided. It's inevitable.